morning. Um, this is, I think I messed it up again. I don't know. I keep moving the laptop around, and then I got to figure out where it goes again. So that's that. Okay, Thursday, right? Yes, it's Thursday. Um, Happy Thursday. I'm still waiting for that day I can tell you that it's so much cooler here. Um, it's not today, but it could be tomorrow. You just never know. So we're gonna think positive thoughts. Um, so this has been a week for me of classes. I'm taking a class Wednesday mornings, and then I took a class the last few evenings for like a couple hours every evening. Good morning, Susan and Dora and Deb. Um, Online stuff, which is pretty fun. I kind of had forgotten about that how much there is online. I took some stuff early on, in the um, when the pandemic started getting going and things were closing down. I took a couple of yoga classes online, and which was pretty great. Um, but then I kind of set that aside, and but I'm getting back to it. So I think it's great if there's things that you're interested in doing or interested in learning. This would be a great time for it, because if you've had things that um, were too far away or just too inconvenient to try to schedule, I had a painting class that I really wanted to take, but it was up in New York, and was actually the woman was actually from the Netherlands, but she would come to New York once a year and do the course. And I don't know, it just never seemed like the right time to get up there. Um, but now it's online this year, so um, that would be that's a benefit, right? That's something that you could take advantage of for this year. My son and I just did a online. Um, there's a game that we play online, and they usually have like an in-person event every summer, but this year it was all virtual. So we bought tickets to it and played online, and that was really fun. So I'm and by next year maybe everything will be back in person, which will be good. But on the other hand, we probably were never going to go to California for the event, so it was fun to be able to take part in any form that we can. And living here, as we all do, or most of us anyway, in Delaware, we are kind of in the corner. I mean, we're not too far from a lot of other places, but you can't just go down the street and do a lot of the things that you might be able to do in more populated areas. So take advantage of the good things that are available right now. Um, we're doing a lot of takeout, and hi Key, nice to see you. Takeout and meal delivery. Like, I've never really done that before, because again, Delaware City is like the left corner of nothing. We're out here at the end of a dead end street, um, and we couldn't get anything. There nobody delivered out here, and because why would you? There's barely anything going on, but now so many people do. So many different services do. Different delivery services, different just straight up companies will restaurants and things will deliver. So I want to encourage. I'm trying to encourage that to continue because I like it. um, it probably won't, because again, like there's just not much of a population to support that here. But I can dream. Um, so that is maybe a good thought for today. Is how do you take advantage of the good in every situation? Right? Clearly, um, I would not, you know, I would not have wished for this to happen so I can get meal delivery. But um, what is there good that you can find in any situation? Um, Certainly, the availability of things online. Um, I'm so grateful we have the infrastructure for this type of thing, to be able to have a class online and communicate with one another this way. Um, I'm grateful that I have the time to do some of these things. Things have slowed down a little, right? We don't have as many demands on our time. We don't have as many options and distractions, right? You can't, there's a lot of things that we aren't doing anymore, um, or not to the extent that we were. Even something as simple as going to the grocery store, I don't linger. I don't wander around and get like sidetracked looking at this and thinking about this, and then maybe looking on my phone to find a recipe for this thing that looks really good and what could I do with it. I don't do any of that anymore. Now I just buy stuff and leave. Um, so that's certainly, things have. I told Dave we are no longer shoppers. We are buyers. We just buy and then we leave. We don't shop. We don't browse. Um, so that whole, if you were a person that did that on the regular, um, you probably don't anymore. And so there's a whole bunch of time that you have back. Um, and then that it gives you just a little more time, right, to contemplate things, to um, maybe catch up on some things that you haven't been able to do. I know my own meditation practice has improved because I'm taking the time to do it. I'm not rushing off to do the next thing. Um, so that could be, a benefit of things being a little more slower paced. Um, so, what is good? We always have that option. We can focus on the bad or more negative aspects of what's going on in our life, or we can focus on the positive ones. Both are true, right? Both are the reality of what's happening. Um, but which one are we going to focus on? It makes a huge difference in our attitude towards what's happening. Because ultimately, we really can't change what's happening. Um, we do have a certain amount of choice in our life. We know this. But we also know that we are very much um, part of everything that's happening. And the idea that we can stop something or reverse what's happening is not realistic. Right? We can't change the reality, but we can change our reality, right? Our perception. Um, we can, and I mean, it's not, and I mean, I've certainly heard people say that, well, aren't you just like sticking your head in the sand and pretending that everything is good? And so this sort of Pollyanna outlook, oh, everything's great and sunny. No, that's not what I'm talking about. That would be, you know, not very helpful at all, right? It wouldn't make you feel good. it would make everyone around you feel terrible, right? Because why are you acting so oddly? Um, but it's just, so it's not a matter of denying what's happening, but where's your focus going to be? Um, Finding the good in anything, in everything. That's got to be our goal, not dwelling on what doesn't work. And this is a habit, right? We build these habits. Um, just as being consistently negative is a habit, trying to be consistently positive can become your new habit. Um, it is life changing, right? It will change how you feel about everything if you can dwell on what's positive. Um, it will improve your relationships with the people around you. Um, what if, instead of pointing out what's wrong, you pointed out what's right? What if, instead of complaining to the company or the manager when you have poor service, you made a special effort to compliment and to, send a thank you note or email, hey, you guys really did a great job with this. Thank you so much. Um, every every situation has a good and a bad, right? Um, we had just had a new roof put on not that long ago, and the first time we got a big heavy rain, it was leaking through the roof above this room. It's a kind of a flat roof. This is a weird like addition to the side of the house that they put on in the turn of the century. So this house used to be a doctor's office. Um, Around the turn of the century, the doctor moved in here, and he had his office downstairs. Um, and the story around town was that he delivered a difficult pregnancy, and the father, in gratitude, built this addition onto the side of the house so he could have a separate waiting room, examining room, and then there's two bedrooms above it. This is one of the bedrooms above it. Um, but it's a flat roof, and if you've ever had a flat roof or been around a flat roof, it's just nothing but a headache, right? Because obviously water just sits there unless it's they do what they're supposed to do. So we discussed it. We knew what we were supposed to do. They were supposed to do it, and they just didn't do it right. So that was a whole big thing. They came back, they fixed it. They were very, apologetic, and I was angry, at first, right? Because obviously you pay a lot of money for a new roof, you don't want it to leak. But when I saw how um, good they were about coming back, getting the work done, redoing it, I realized that, that's really where my focus needs to be. It's not, can we never make a mistake? It's how do we fix the mistakes that we make? We all make mistakes, and we're always going to be experiencing other people's mistakes. Um, the question is not, are you perfect, but are you responsible? Are you able to take responsibility for errors that you've made and do what you need to make them right? And when you encounter that, um, it's really important to acknowledge that and to give people that feedback that you appreciate it, that you see what they're doing, and that you don't expect things to be perfect. Um, and that is a real source of, I think, dissatisfaction for people. They have this feeling that things should be perfect. Um, Things will never be perfect. The only thing we can hope for is that people will go out of their way to make mistakes correct. So we can acknowledge that in other people. We can applaud that. We can try to do that in our own life. Um, what if instead of trying to get everything right all the time, you focused on following up, on instead of, spending time on regret for not doing these things, you just went ahead and did them when you had the time. You, if you have something, and I've had things like this where I start it and it's kind of falling apart, and I'm like, oh, this really isn't working out quite right, and then you walk away and just kind of leave it. Right? Go back and just do it. It may not be perfect, and then you know that's okay. Or maybe you'll have a better idea of how to do it this time, and it will turn out better. Um, just as we get better um, in our skills, our ability to um, look at a situation and maybe with better eyes um, is something that happens too. I remember the first time I tried to knit. Um, my grandmother, well, I guess not the first time. The first time my grandmother taught me when I was just young, and I used to knit little things. I knit like a blanket for my cat or something like that. But then I was like, oh, I'm really going to learn to knit this time. I was in college and I had, my boyfriend. I thought, well, I'm going to make him some socks for Christmas, some Argyle socks. So if you know how to knit, where this story's going, right? So I knitting away, and the socks are sort of, they're getting smaller and smaller as I'm pulling everything tighter and tighter, and they came out just like baby socks, but like with no stretch at all. So then I just threw those away, and I'm like, forget that. So for years, maybe 20 years, I just knew in my head, I can't knit. Oh, I can't do that. I tried it. Oh, I can't. I pulled it too tight. It was awful, terrible experience. Never going to do that until my aunt passed away, and my grandmother was gone. My mom and my aunt were the only people that I knew who knit, and I realized that uh, there was nobody else to knit for kids, because my aunt used to knit little sweaters for the kids in the family, and it was a nice thing. And I thought, well, how are we going to do this, right? Nobody knows how to knit. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'm going to learn how to knit. And it was so easy. And I think, you forget. So in 20 years, I don't know, something had changed. I could see it better. I could hold, the tension better, something. Um, so we focus on getting older and as a negative thing, right? We think about what are we losing, but what we really ought to think about is what are you gaining? What have you learned? How have you gotten better in mentally, spiritually, in your abilities, your knowledge that you could bring to these challenges um, that maybe 5 years, 10 years, 20 years you just weren't ready, you weren't prepared, but now you are. um, so don't be afraid to go back and take a crack at some of these things, see what happens. You may be very pleasantly surprised, and if not, then you at least that it's not for you. I still knit, but I haven't knit in years. I do, and when I do knit now, I actually do knit socks, but I don't do Argyle anymore. I'm done with the Argyle, but there are a lot of other things to do, I've found, so that's fine. I just see the doors open here. I'm gonna close it. All right, so let's do asana. All right. Sitting up tall, breath in, breath out. Relaxing through the body. Breathing in through the nose, back out through the nose. And then chin down toward the chest. Let the head hang. And moving around. Big circle, the head. One way, and then the other. Back to center. Take a breath. Lean forward. Moving around. Big circle. One way and the other. Back up to your seat. Arms wide. Take a deep breath. Exhale, hands together. Inhale wide. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Interlace the fingers. Lift the hands, gazing up. And then arms down by your side. Inhale, lift. Lower. Lift. And lower. One more. Lifting up. Then right arm down by your side. Reach across the left. Switch. Back up to your seat. Lift the shoulders, roll back. And forward. Right hand on left knee, left arm behind you, sit up tall, then take a twist. Back to center, switch. Inhale, twist. Back to center, tabletop. Sitting back on the heels. Child's pose. Then moving back up. Tabletop cat-cow for a few sets. Just to loosen up through the spine. Inhales. Exhales. And then sit back on the heels again. Maybe stack the fists. Rest the forehead. From here, we're going to do rabbit. So if this is hard for you to get to tuck the chin and get the top of the head, crown of the head resting on the mat, you can kind of just stay here, um, rest the forehead, because if you're up really high and you can't get down here, you might be able to rest the forehead and lift the hips up a bit. See what works. You could also use a block for this. The main thing to remember is that you don't want to put a lot of weight. You don't want to be pressing heavily on the head. It should be just very light pressure, because we don't want to, put a lot of pressure on the neck or anything like that. So rabbit. We've got knees close together, hands back behind. You might reach for the heels or the ankles. Something here to keep the arms back. We're going to tuck the chin, rest the top of the head on the mat lightly, and then lift up the hips. And back down. You can bring the hands out in front. Rest. Fists one on top of the other, then rest the head down. Take a few breaths. Moving back up. Tabletop to downward dog. Walking it out a little. And step your feet up. Be in your fold for a few breaths. You could have opposite elbows here and just rest. Or hands could be long. Moving slowly to stand. Breath in and out. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, we're going to step back with the right. Drop your knee, arms overhead. Hands to the mat. Stepping back. Downward dog. Inhale, high plank. And then lower down. Inhale, up, just head and chest. Lower. Inhale, lifting up. Lower. Once more. Lifting up head and chest. And lower. Moving back up. Tabletop to downward dog. One more breath. On the exhale, right foot steps up. Drop your knee on the left, arms overhead. Then hands down to the mat. Step the back foot up and fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lift, arms overhead. Back to mountain. Breath in and out. Inhale, lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, left foot steps back. Set the knee down, arms overhead. Hands to the mat, step back. Downward dog. Inhale, high plank. And lower. Inhale, lift, head and chest. Lowering down. Inhale, lift. Lower. And one more time, lifting. And then lowering. Coming back up, tabletop, downward dog. One more breath. Left foot steps up. Right knee down on the mat, arms overhead. And then hands to the mat. Step the back foot up and fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lift. Back to your mountain. Breath in and breath out. Let's turn to the side. So we're facing side of the mat. Feet wide, as wide as you want. They don't have to be super wide. Getting ready for a fold. So relaxing the shoulders. Take a deep breath. Leave the hands at the waist and then just lean forward. And let the body hang down. Hands can move down. The legs, you could bring them down to the mat or to a block. Whatever feels like the right thing today. The weight is in the front part of the body. Right? So we're heavier in this front foot. Heels might actually be quite light here. They may actually lift up a little bit as you lean forward. And you can experiment with this, right? You can see how this feels. The difference between when we really sink back, we have our weight on the heels, it's a very different feeling than when we are coming to the front. Hands back to the waist, engage that strength in the legs to lift you up. Deep breath here. In and out. And then let's walk the feet in. Take a breath. Hands together. And bend the knees. Lowering down. So if you're all the way down, you want to be nice and upright. Maybe bring the elbows to the inside of the knees, pressing apart. Wherever you are with this is fine. If you're about halfway, then just hold. And we're working on the leg strength then, using the strength in the legs to keep you there. Once you're down here, it's not too hard to stay. You could pretty much stay here all day. We're not going to. But when you're coming only halfway, it really is. It's a big workout. It's a lot to keep you there. So it's doing good work for your legs. Take one more breath. And then we're moving back up. And we're going to turn. So this right foot is facing the front. Well, both feet are, but right foot is out, left foot behind. And one foot on either side of the mat. So you are feeling like you are, you have some width to your stance. You aren't kind of walking a tightrope here. Very unstable. Take a deep breath. And then fold forward. Got hands behind. And the right knee may be bent a little bit. Depends how tight things feel today. And then we're going to come up about halfway. Keep the hands behind. Right? We're about halfway here. Shift the weight over onto the right. Right? So that we feel light in this back foot. We don't really need to use it. We can lift it up. Find your steady place here. Hands behind is good if you feel like that is really holding you back, that nervousness that your hands are, then bring them out. That's fine. Try airplane arms. Maybe that gives you the feeling that you could move your arms if you needed to. Whatever works. And then just set the foot back down. Back foot to the front. Arms overhead. And then I'm going to turn around. You don't have to, but we're just going to do the opposite. So for this one, left foot is out in front. Right foot is behind. Interlacing the fingers, arms back, deep breath, fold forward. And rising up about halfway, keep the hands behind, shifting onto the left. Take your time, find your balance, and then we'll see. lifting that back leg. And maybe we're not lifting it very high, right? If you're really unsure about this, come up a little higher and then you can kind of use that back leg to give you a little stability. And then we're just all coming back up. Back foot steps up to the front, arms overhead. Let's interlace the fingers. Flip the palms, lean back a little. Back to mountain. Breath in, breath out. And let's come on down to a seat. Soles of the feet together. Sitting up tall. Shoulders back. Deep breath. And fold. Come on back up. Let's lift the knees. We'll catch a hold of the toes. So yogi toe lock, first two fingers to the inside of the big toe. Thumb wraps around to grab a hold. If you don't like this, you can always just hold on to the foot. Some people just have sensitive big toes. They don't like how it feels, and that's fine. We're going to lean back so that we're balancing. And then you can extend, maybe halfway, maybe more. Just see what works today. If you're here and you feel steady, experiment, maybe bringing the legs wider. See how that works. Sitting more upright. And then bend the knees, both legs out in front. Deep breath in, fold forward. Moving back up. Bend your right knee. And we're going to just hug it in close here. Sitting up tall. Couple of breaths. And then lower that knee out to the side. The right foot is right up next to the left thigh. Take a deep breath. Relax the shoulders. And then we're folding forward, reaching down for the foot or the leg as we fold. Coming back up. Let's switch. So right leg extends. Got the left knee, we're bending in, hugging it in for a few breaths. And then lowering out to the side. Sitting up tall. Breath in, and then fold forward. Reaching down for the foot of the leg. Coming back up, both legs out in front. Deep breath in, folding forward. Coming back up, bend the knees, soles of the feet to the mat. Make sure you've got some room behind you so we can lower down. Or you could rock back, whatever works for you. Let's rest here for a couple of breaths, getting everything settled. Knees are bent, soles of the feet to the mat, right ankle on top of left knee. You could stay here and press this knee away from the body, or bring that left thigh in towards the chest. Breathe. Setting back down, switch sides. And whatever you did on the one side, we'll do on this other as well. Set both feet down to the mat. We've got the heels walking back close toward the body, setting up for bridge. Hands by your side. And then we're pressing down with the hands and the feet, lifting up the hips. And breathe. Lower down. Soles of the feet together, knees apart. Maybe bring the hands up over the head. Relax. And then knees to center. We can do goalpost arms or arms out to a T. Bumping the knees to the center. Walk the feet to the outer edge of the mat. And then we're going to start lowering both knees over to the right. So they're not going to move evenly. It's going to be kind of like windshield wipers. And just keep the feet where they are. I find this is a hard one when you first start. People are always sort of moving their feet around and doing different things. But if you just focus on keeping the feet right where they are and let the knees kind of drop naturally, it's a pretty comfortable pose. Back to center. And then this time, knees are moving to the left. And just as far as you want to go with this. It might not be as far on some days if things feel tight. And then knees back to center. Let's hug the knees into the chest. We can move side to side a little. And then bringing hands onto the kneecaps. Just start rotating the knees around. Making kind of a circular shape with them. And when you've gone a few rotations one way, we'll move the opposite direction. Coming back to rest. Extend the legs. Straight out. Soles of the feet pressed toward the sky. And then hands by the side, palms pressing down, kind of support you here. We're going to start lowering. You can go one leg at a time or both legs together, whatever you want to do. Just ending up in a comfortable place on the mat. So legs can extend long. You could keep the knees bent. If that feels comfortable, you could bring soles of the feet together, let the knees come apart. You could even roll on your side if that's feeling like the right thing for you today. We just want to feel comfortable for Shavasana. So we can think about our practice, right? What happens if you notice that you are not comfortable in a pose, right? Maybe you've stepped out a little too far, you feel off balance, or something in your knee feels off. What do? Right? You don't persist in that pose, you change, right? You adjust, you do something a little different. So just as we don't expect our practice to be perfect, why do we expect everything in our other life to be perfect? Making adjustments, corrections, right? Course corrections. These are important parts of paying attention to what's happening in your life. It's not a failure. It's not even an error, really. It's just how we navigate through life. if you think of a boat on the ocean. So a boat may set a course, but as they go, they must put in what they call course correction, right? To account for the wind, the currents. Maybe there's shallow water they need to avoid. Maybe there's a hazard, something in the way. Um, do they consider their trip a failure because they had to change? No. I think they would consider it maybe a failure if they didn't change and they ended up on the rocks, right? And this is what can happen to us in our practice, in our life. Don't be afraid to adjust, to change, to correct your course. When you're ready, moving a bit, fingers and toes. Maybe stretching, and then bringing knees into the chest. Rock a little side to side. Come on over onto the right side. And make your way up to a seat. Let's bring hands together. Deep breath in and out. Thank you for taking some time this morning for yoga, for sharing it with me. I hope you have a great day. Namaste. Okay, great yoga. So let's do some meditation. 5 minutes. Okay. I can do that if I can find my timer here. All right, so as always, we're going to have 1 bell to start and 3 bells to stop. So get comfortable. If you want to sit on something or move into a chair to sit on, that's fine. Whatever you want to do so that you feel nice and upright. We're going to close the eyes. So there are different types of meditation you can do with eyes open. But I think it's helpful to close your eyes because if you think about it, your eyes are your main, one of your very main source of input, right? So when we close that off, it gives us less distraction, less stimulation, so we can get a little more inward. So eyes are closed, noticing the breath, keeping that focus on that space. just in front of the closed eyes. Watching thoughts and images, words, different things passing through our mind, just watching them move past. We are observing. Okay, so opening your eyes when you're ready, just kind of coming back to everything. How was that for everybody? Good, I hope. That went pretty fast for me today. The class that I'm taking on Wednesdays, it's about meditation, but also like the Bhagavad Gita and how that um, relates to it. And there was a guest speaker yesterday who just like um, was like, okay, so let's do some meditation. And I think it was a half an hour meditation, just like, oh, like they didn't mention, they didn't like, we're going to be a half an hour. It was just like, okay, let's just meditate. And that was hard. I don't know. I guess they just assumed that we'd be prepared for that. And, I got through it, but it was pretty, it took it took a lot to kind of stay still. And I think sometimes that's the most difficult of all. Like if you sort of know how long you're going to meditate, it feels like you're a little more in control of it. But when you just sit down, like, okay, well, I'm just going to meditate for as long as I can, um, that's, I think, sometimes less successful, right? Because we kind of, we don't know how long it's been. We can't really gauge accurately how long it's been. And it can be a little discouraging. So I do recommend, if you're going to do this on your own, and I do recommend that you do, um, get a timer. Either if you don't have an app on your phone, then just use a kitchen timer or any type of timer. You've got to probably have a clock on your phone with a timer thing. Set it up, and don't try to do too much. Do 5 minutes. Maybe work up to 10 minutes if you want to. Um, See how you feel comfortable with it, but don't ask too much of yourself, because you don't want to. You want to feel good, and you want to, just with your asana practice, you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. You'll get discouraged. Better to set small goals and meet them. um, and again, with asana, it's the consistency with which you do this, rather than big chunks, just little ones, but do them pretty frequently. You'll get there. Dora. Good. I'm glad you liked it, Dora. Yeah, you're going to have good ones and ones that kind of feel, and that's okay. So we don't try not to care too much one way or another, right? We just let it be what it is, and we're just glad that we're here and able to do it. So, also, I did send out a thing about the Zoom call. I got back from some folks. Nobody really suggested a firm time. There were some, um, Deb, maybe, I think Deb suggested Sundays, which might be good. I'm going to send out another email about that asking. I don't know if weekends are family time, if people don't want to try to do that then. Um, but I'm pretty open. So it could be during the day, during the week, it could be a weekday night. We could do the weekend. I mean, I can make that work too, but I just don't know. Again, I'm going to send another one out and ask people to be a little more specific. And if you don't have a preference, just tell me that, because I don't want to pick a time and then have everyone be like, no, I can't do it. So, and you know what I was thinking about? I'm really sorry we never got to that Indian restaurant. What a bummer, right? We canceled, and then we were like, oh yeah, we'll do it in a couple of weeks, and then that was it. Everything was done. Um, I think we'll get back there. They're still in business. They actually deliver now, which is pretty great. Um, so I hope that they'll still be there when we're ready to go. There'll be someplace there anyway. All right. Well, have a great day. Stay cool, and enjoy your Thursday. I will be back tomorrow.